Well, the Michigan-Nebraska game is over, and it was as close and as nerve-wracking as I was fearing it would be. Um, this was a tough game, man. This was a tough game for Michigan. But the thing about it is that we won. We won this game 32-29. And I'm happy we won, obviously. We got a bye week next week. We'll play Northwestern in a couple of weeks, and then we've got Michigan State in 3 weeks. Now, Northwestern, I'm not necessarily worried about. Of course, take every game seriously, no matter who it is. But it's that Michigan State game I'm really looking forward to right now and worried about because I know that game's probably going to be very close. But this game, let me tell you about this game. Michigan came into this game ranked as a 2.5-point favorite, 3-point favorite, whatever you want to say. Won by 3. And didn't look great doing it. The offense looked pretty good. We got plays when we needed to. We had, how many was it? 459 total yards. For the first time this season, it was our defense that could not stop Nebraska. And this is what I fear. This is what I hate about playing teams with quarterbacks who can run the ball. I know Adrian Martinez can run the ball, and I feared that he would, and he did. Not as much as I thought he would, but he did do it. And it's just, Adrian Martinez, I know he's an up and down kind of guy. He's very up and down when it comes to how good he plays. He played pretty darn good today against Michigan, even though doesn't it seem like Adrian Martinez has been in the league or has been in college football at Nebraska, starting QB at Nebraska for like 10 years or something. I swear, it feels like he's been the quarterback ever since I started watching college football. I don't remember the last time the quarterback was not Adrian Martinez at Nebraska, I swear. But he played a good game, 18 for 28, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. That interception was very early in the game. Helped us take a 3-0 lead. Now, I didn't actually see it. And I kind of knew this game would be fairly close. I didn't think it'd be this nerve-wracking, but I did think it would be closer. If I would have made a Wisconsin video last week, I know I didn't make a Wisconsin video last week. Well, last week I was out of town, just never got around to doing it. But if you would have heard me talk about the Wisconsin game last week, which I love that game, then you would have heard me say that this game was going to be a shootout, probably. Nebraska's no slouch. They stomped Northwestern last week, 56-7. Even though that they had a 3-3 record going into this game, they're a lot better than how they look. Yes, that Illinois game was not good. They lost to Illinois in week 1, and after that, everyone was like, well, they're not going to be any good. Nebraska's going to be lucky to win 3 or 4 games. But then they got a few wins under their belt and some close losses to good teams. You know, that 52-7 win over Fordham and the 28-3 win over Buffalo don't really show how good Nebraska really is. They show that they're better than garbage teams. But that Oklahoma win, I know Oklahoma's not nearly as good as they look, but they almost did beat Oklahoma, and they only had a 3-point loss to Michigan State, and I believe in overtime. And of course, last week they stomped Northwestern. Nebraska is not a bad team. They're not. Nebraska's actually a fairly good team. I'm not saying that they deserve to be ranked or that they're a great team or anything. I'm not saying that at all. But Nebraska is a lot better than what their record shows. They're a more talented team than they were when we played them in 2018 and won 56-10. It's not the same Nebraska team, man. It's just not. Now on to Michigan. Now that I've sung Nebraska's praises. Michigan, especially this defense, just could not get it done on plays. Allowed too many big plays. When you thought you could sack Adrian Martinez, you just couldn't do it. Aiden Hutchinson almost had some sacks in this game. Really couldn't get anything going on defense. First half of this game, we dominated on defense, went into the halftime with a 13-0 lead. All of a sudden, third quarter comes, they score 22 unanswered. Or I guess not 22 unanswered, but they did score 22 points, Nebraska did, in the third quarter alone. And then they did score, how many points did they score in the fourth? Where does it say? 7. They scored 7 in the... So this is what it goes. The first quarter, nobody scored. It was 0-0 at the end of the first. We scored 13 points, held them to 0, took a 13-0 lead going into halftime. They had 22 points in the third quarter. We had 6. We tried to go for a 2, could not get it. And then in the fourth quarter, we ended up scoring more than them in the fourth quarter, 13-7. It was way too close. This game was way too close. There was a couple of lead changes, but we did get away from it. And I think what really sealed this game away for Nebraska was the fumble. Adrian Martinez had a fumble. We picked it up, scored a field goal. Even though we were really close to scoring a touchdown, we still had to go for a field goal. Player of the game for me is Jake Moody. He hits a 39-yarder to take the 32-29 lead with 1:24 left. And that's what sealed the game for us right there. That's what won us the game. Not really sealed it. They still had a chance, obviously, but yeah, that is the points that ultimately led us to the win. Can I talk about Cade McNamara? This dude, and I know some of you guys are gonna crap on me for saying this, but Cade McNamara, he's just not it, dude. He's not it. Why is he the starting quarterback? I will never understand. It's McCarthy's time. Put in J.J. McCarthy. It's his time. I'm sorry. Passes that McNamara missed, McCarthy would have made. I'm just being honest with you. In the very little snaps McCarthy's played, he has looked more impressive. I'm just being honest with you. He's looked better. He can sling it out more. He's got a more accurate throw. He can run better than McNamara. McNamara is better at game management. And game managing quarterbacks don't cut it in modern day football. I'm sorry, they just don't. They will win you some games, but they're not going to help you win championships. It's just not going to happen. And I'm not saying Michigan's going to win a championship this year. I don't think they are at all, unless we can win our bowl game. We are bowl eligible now, as if that matters. But, I mean, when you look at his stats, it doesn't look horrible. 22 for 38, 255 yards, 1 interception. He did throw his first interception for the first time in his career. I think he had his first interception in, he's thrown 175 passes without an interception, or a little bit more than that even, and they finally threw one. And then right after that, Nebraska took a lead over us, and Michigan was the last remaining team in the country to not give up a lead in a game. All 3 teams who still held that record, I think, were Bama, Georgia, and Michigan. All at one point today were down by a certain amount of points. I think Georgia was down by 3. Bama obviously lost. There was a few different lead changes. I'm going to go over that in a second. But yeah, we were able to run the ball a little bit better this week. We obviously passed more. If we look at our stats here, we had 459 total yards, but they had 431. It's just unacceptable. I don't know why we're allowing that to happen. This offense should not be letting that happen. 204 rushing yards, 255 passing. They had 291 passing to their 140 rushing. Both teams had 6 penalties. 6 penalties. Michigan did have 1 turnover. It was the interception. And Nebraska had 2 turnovers. 1 a fumble lost by Martinez, and 1, I believe, was an interception. And we did lead in time of possession with 34 minutes. So it was pretty even there. And Hassan Haskins was our leading rusher. He looked great today. Mike Sanders still had an amazing catch that was way overthrown by McNamara, but it was all him. He just stretched wide open his arms and caught a deep pass. It was the best pass of the game. He had and 21 carries for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns for Haskins. He just trucks forward. He looked great today. Corum had some good plays as well. Baldwin was our leading receiver with 6 receptions for 64 yards. He was all over the place today. He didn't have a touchdown, but neither did McNamara. McCarthy came in for a couple of plays. Both of them were runs. He ran the ball himself, which I don't understand why he's doing that. I know he can run the ball. One of them was a first down. One of them was a loss of a couple, and I think he fumbled the ball, but we picked it back up. I think he was down anyway, but still not fun to watch. Really close game, 32-29. Michigan wins. We gave up too many big plays. I think they had a couple of plays where they were just long touchdown passes. You can't let that crap happen. You just can't. You in the third quarter, you allowed them to score on a long pass and get the 2-point conversion. They got the ball back. They scored again. It was a disaster. Right after they scored their first touchdown, McNamara threw an interception. They got the ball deep in our territory, scored almost immediately. They did score it on the very next play off of a screen pass that wasn't defended at all. Just really frustrating to watch that happen. Watch our defense just completely crumble right before my eyes. But we're 6-0, man. We're 6-0. We've got a bye week next week, so we can relax for a week. And then we play Northwestern, which we get that one at home as well. And I have no reason to believe that we can't beat Northwestern, a team that lost to Nebraska 56-7 just a week ago. Northwestern is not a good team. If we lose to them or even have a close game with them, it's a bad game, man. Bad game. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't absolutely dominate that game and win by 40 plus points. If we don't, there's something wrong with this team. All right, on to the other games that happened today, as I do this every week. Michigan State, number 11 Michigan State, had a pretty good win over Rutgers, 31-13. Again, like I've said before about Rutgers is not a bad team. They just are in a really tough conference. When you're in a conference, the Big Ten East, when you're in the Big Ten East, it's never going to be easy. You got Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State. That's a tough conference. And then you got, Rutgers is pretty good. And you got other teams in there too that are also pretty good. The Big Ten West, the only team that really matters in the Big Ten West is Iowa, who had a huge win today. But yeah, 31-13 for Michigan State. Looked better than against Rutgers than Michigan did. Rutgers, unfortunately, has just lost the last 3 weeks in a row. Losing 20-13 to Michigan, 52-10 or whatever it was against Ohio State, and now 31-13 against Michigan State. That's just unfortunate. That's a really tough schedule to have to play Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State in 3 consecutive weeks. That's not easy for any team to do. And they just haven't been able to win any of those games. But Rutgers, even though they've lost 3 in a row, are a lot better than they look. They have looked good in these losses. Not last week or this week particularly, but they looked good against Michigan, and they've looked good in other games they've played. I have no reason to believe that Rutgers can't win a few more games this year. Ohio State finally looks better than they should. Defense is still iffy, allowing 17 points, but they scored 66 points. C.J. Stroud had 5 touchdown passes. 66-17, Ohio State, doing what Ohio State usually does. Poor Illinois is the poor sucker that had to suffer the fate of Wisconsin, 24-0. Wisconsin, Illinois had 93 total yards. Illinois was basically the punching bag for Wisconsin. And you kind of knew it was going to happen. Wisconsin is a team that just got anally raped the last 2 weeks in a row by Michigan and Notre Dame, and just completely humiliated in Chicago and on their home turf. So they came out today and laid waste to a terrible Illinois team, 24-0. So I hope you're proud of yourself, Wisconsin. You got Army next. You can beat up on Army too, make yourself feel better about yourself, because you're just terrible. Penn State and Iowa was a fantastic game. I mean, it was sloppy at first, but it came down to the wire. Iowa scored and a late touchdown and took the lead 23-20, and then won the game. Iowa wins 23-20 over Penn State. Number 3 beat number 4. I mean, Iowa's the best team in the Big Ten right now as far as I'm concerned. Yes, you can make the case for Ohio State, but Ohio State does have that loss to Oregon. That'll always be there. If they didn't have that loss, you can make the argument Ohio State is a better team. But as of right now, Iowa holds the ranking and the record over Ohio State, and that will that will likely be, unless something changes, Iowa's going to win the West for sure. I mean, Wisconsin usually is the team that challenges Iowa. It usually is back and forth between those two. Wisconsin's worthless this year. Iowa is where it's at. They just proved to everyone that they're a great team. They're a top 3 team. They're going to go up to number 2 after winning today and Alabama losing. So now it's just going to be Georgia at 1, at Iowa at 2. Didn't think that this would happen at the start of the season, but here we are. Alabama's going to go down to at least 3 or 4, maybe lower, after losing to a really bad Texas A&M team. Iowa looks great. I think when it comes to the Big Ten this year, Iowa is going to win the West, and the East is going to be decided either between Ohio State or Penn State. It's got to be one of those teams. Maybe Michigan or Michigan State can make some noise and spoil those plans, but I doubt it. I still think Ohio State and Penn State are much better teams than both of them. And we will get to see later, but all those teams play each other. So we haven't seen them yet. They're going to be great games. Notre Dame escapes a win over Virginia Tech. They looked terrible at the beginning of this game. They went down 10-0 early, ended up winning 32-29. Same final score as the Michigan-Nebraska, and ended pretty much the exact same way too, with a game-winning field goal. Notre Dame wins 32-29 on the road, just like Michigan did. Both teams looked eerily similar today. Couldn't do anything on offense for a little bit, and then got started on offense, and then defense kind of looked like crap for most of the game for both teams. But both teams ended up winning the exact same way with the exact same score. And guess what? Both teams are on a bye week next week. Wouldn't you believe it? And then after that, Michigan plays Northwestern. Notre Dame plays USC in 2 weeks from now. On to some other games that aren't Big Ten, because those are really the only Big Ten games that were on this week. Coastal Carolina beat Arkansas State 52-20. Cincinnati got their dominating win over Temple 52-3. Cincinnati's going to be Cincinnati's a playoff team. If the season were to end right now, Cincinnati would be in the playoffs. Absolutely. Now it's going to be interesting to see if Cincinnati takes that spot over Bama. That's what I'm interested in. If Cincinnati ends up being ranked higher than Bama, that would be very interesting to me. But Cincinnati wins, looks great again. Arizona State got a 28-10 win over a terrible Stanford team. Florida dominated Vanderbilt 42-0. Mississippi State and Arkansas had a really good high-scoring game. Mississippi State ended up winning this one 52-51. Arkansas decided to take a risk after their touchdown and try and go for 2. It was unsuccessful, and Mississippi State. Why am I saying Miss? It says Miss, so I keep thinking Mississippi State. I'm sorry. Ole Miss. Ole Miss takes a 52-51 win. Oklahoma. I thought Oklahoma was going to win or going to lose. They were down 41-23. They were down by like 20-some points at one point. Ended up coming back and running away with it. 55-48, really high-scoring game. I still don't think Oklahoma's a good team, but they're 6-0 and they're 6th ranked in the country. I think one of these games they're going to be exposed at some point. But I don't know how to feel about Oklahoma. I think that they're way overrated, but they keep proving everyone wrong and keep somehow winning these games. We'll yet to see what happens with Oklahoma. They're the most confusing team to me this year. Georgia, who is now the undisputed number one team in the country, just beat a ranked opponent, Auburn, 34-10. Auburn actually became like the first team to score a rushing touchdown against Georgia in however long it's been. It's been forever. Georgia's defense is scary good. Plays lights out. Plays pretty much lights out every week. Every opponent they play, they blow out everyone they play. They've got a second string quarterback in. They're still winning these games by a lot of points. They don't even need to play their starter. They've got players who haven't even came back yet. It's just crazy. Georgia's the number one team, undisputed number one team, and I don't think anyone's anywhere close. Honestly, not like you could have made the case for Alabama, but they just lost. So, yeah, I don't think so, man. Wake Forest got the win over Syracuse, 40-37. How do you win by only? How does a ranked team only win by 3 against Syracuse? I will never know. I will never have that answer for you. SMU got a 31-24 win over Navy. What the number 24 team should be doing is only winning by 3 to a unranked team. Boise State got a 26-17 win over BYU. BYU is 10th ranked. They're gonna go down now. They're top 10. They were in the top 10 for a week, so that's cool for them. But now they're out for sure. Kentucky got a 42-21 win over LSU. Kentucky plays Alabama next week, I believe. Or no, Georgia. They play Georgia next week. Kentucky's going to get destroyed. Every team who plays Georgia is going to get destroyed. But, next week they're really going to be shown, how to not play football. Biggest shocker. San Diego State, number 25 San Diego State got a 31-7 win over New Mexico. Who cares? But the big game, Texas A&M, a team who lost to Mississippi State a week ago. A team who could only muster, 10 points against Colorado or however many points they got. Couldn't even get a first down. Is scoring 41 points. This team does not have a good offense. And they scored 41 points against the number one team in the country. They're not the number one team anymore. Bryce Young had a terrible game. If I look at these stats. But yeah, Texas A&M. Bryce Young honestly didn't have a terrible game. He just had to carry the game. 28 for 48, 369 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. Yeah, no. Wasn't enough. Wasn't enough to win the game. How many total yards did they get in this game? 522 to Texas A&M's 379, and you still couldn't win this game. When you're getting 522 yards in a game and you still can't win, you've got a problem. Especially against Texas A&M, who's Texas A&M is, even though they're 4-2 now, they're not a good team, and they were not supposed to win this game. Alabama is not a good team. They're, at least not as good as they usually are. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they're not as good as they should be. But yeah, that was the biggest shocker of the week. Alabama losing to Texas A&M and probably losing their top 5 spot. If not, losing their playoff chances. Who knows? We'll see if Alabama can get back in the playoffs. I'm sure they'll probably still be up there. And won't take much for them to stay in the playoff picture. But I can guarantee you now, they're not going to win anything this year. The SEC championship will likely be Georgia and Alabama, and Georgia will probably expose Alabama, and Bama might be out. Who knows? We don't know. We could see a playoff with Georgia, Cincinnati, Iowa, and whomever else is up there. Ohio State maybe. We're just gonna have to see. It's been quite a day of college football. A very interesting day. Great day of college football. And the season's just getting more interesting as we go. I can't wait to see what happens next. hopefully Michigan gets a little better, plays a little better. But we got a bye week next week, so bye week. Michigan needs to prepare for Northwestern, and then after that, prepare for Michigan State, and then every other game we've got after that, I believe. Who do we play after Michigan State? Indiana. That'll be tough. And then Penn State. That'll be the big one. That's the huge game right there. And it's at Penn State. We've got at Michigan State, Maryland, at Maryland. I mean, Maryland's not a great team, but any game on the road is never easy unless you're playing Wisconsin. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys, I guess, in a couple of weeks for the Northwestern postgame video. And I'll see you guys next time.